Well, in Yukon, a court case is pitting independent officers of the Legislative Assembly against the territorial government. The case was in court today, and the CBC's Chris Windeyer is following it for us. He joins me now to explain it. Chris, I know that you've spent all day at court. Thanks for sticking around. I'm curious if we can start with exactly who is involved in this case.
Yeah, Shannon, this case is the result of a petition filed in Yukon Supreme Court by the territory's ombudsman and the child and youth advocate. They are classified as independent officers of the Legislative Assembly. So they're not part of any government department, and that is because the idea is that they are there to investigate and often criticize the government.
Okay, so why have they taken the Yukon government to court?
So if we rewind back to last fall, historically, the budgets for these independent officers are decided by an assembly committee called the Members' Services Board. Now, that's an all-party committee made up of 5 MLAs, and they basically manage the operations of the Legislative Assembly itself. What happened this fall is that officials with the Finance Department decided to change the budgets of the independent officers and even eliminated some jobs at the Child and Youth Advocate's office. When the officers complained, the government said, no, we have the power to do this, and that's when 2 of the independent officers took the government to court.
So what are the 2 sides saying in this dispute?
Well, the petitioners are asking for what is called a writ of mandamus, and that is essentially a court order forcing the government to back off, or more accurately, ordering the government to do something. Yesterday, Shauna Steichman, the lawyer for the Child and Youth Advocate, said the law is clear. These officers are supposed to be at arm's length from the government, and if the government can simply go in and slash their budgets at will, then what's to stop them or any other future government from punishing these officers if they issue a finding the government doesn't like? The government, meanwhile, is relying on sort of a 2-track argument. One is that the government's decision here is part of the legislative process of drafting a bill. This gets a little dense. So the argument goes parliamentary privilege would take effect, and therefore the courts can't actually do anything in this case. At the same time, government lawyers say there is no what they call a live issue here for the court to weigh in on because the Legislative Assembly isn't yet sitting. So it's a bit of a heads I win, tails you lose kind of argument.
So as this is going back and forth, what can we expect to happen next?
Well, the arguments wrapped up from both sides today. So Justice Edith Campbell, who's presiding in this case, says she'll issue her decision most likely next Monday. And that is important because the legislature resumes Thursday. And in that case, parliamentary privilege would definitely kick in.
All right, Chris, we'll be keeping our eye on this, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again next week when this decision is down. Thanks so much for this.
Thank you.
That's Chris Windeyer, a reporter with CBC in Whitehorse.